Okay, so in this video we want to extend this controller and we would like to have another controller that is called user controller. Okay, and user controller is there, and we want to have another controller that is called admin controller. So we will expand it over the period of time, but we want to have these controllers, all these controllers. Okay, and task controller you could see is a API task. So first of all, let's just fix this thing. It should be controller. How it would know? We have to add REST controller and request matching. So let's just call it v1 API and then call it user. Okay, and let's just call it okay, I think that is enough for it. And so let's just come to the here. So let's just append it user task. Okay, what we want to do is actually these two things will be accessible to the user, so that's why we are saying it in this way. And here we want to have a uh, REST controller, and the other thing is called uh, one is a REST controller, and the second we have to do the request mapping. So request mapping is called API admin. Okay, so let's just add one method in it because we have to actually test it. And let's just return string, I mean empty string, and then just call it a get endpoint. Okay, uh, and let's just say it's a get endpoint. uh, if you click on it, you will land here and it would actually return uh, this is admin controller. Okay, we will expand it over the period of time, but for now, right now we have this thing. And let's just copy this thing and let's just copy it here, and let's just say it's a user controller. Okay, and uh, let's just not do anything. And you understand security config, we have actually defined anything, right things here. So API is that will be authenticated, and the password and each and everything will be the same. The password is 123. So let's just run it and see what we are actually getting from it. So let's just run it again and check from the postman that is it working as per expectation or not. So application has ran. So first of all, what we have to do, we have to do change API. And if let's just do basic authentication, then we should get 401 no authorization. And if we go with the basic authentication, so we should get the result that this is a user controller, exactly that thing we actually wanted. And the same how if we try to replace it with admin controller, we are getting admin controller. And let's just have task user, and then have a task. So expectation is that we should get all the task. Yes, we have gotten all the task. So actually this is where it is actually working. Well, in the next we try to more work on this thing. Okay, so in previous video we have actually restructured, we have introduced three more controller. Okay, and so far our authentication is this thing, like we are uh, on a request match. If it lands on the home page, we are actually allowing everyone, and if it is on the other page like home controller, task controller, admin controller, we are going to initiate authentication with it. Okay, so and here we have actually provided the password. So what we want to do is actually we want to remove this thing from here, and we want to introduce these things here. Okay, so first of all, let's just remove this thing from here. Okay, uh, and so let's just have another bean. Okay, and this would be a public method, or public method user detail service. So it will be a user detail service, and let's just user detail service. It does not take any parameter. So here we will actually build a user, and we will provide the username and password, the same thing that we actually did there. uh, so user, it's a user detail. You can understand it's a user detail. So let's just build it. Dot build, and we have to provide its username. So username, let's say call it is a user, I think let's just be different, and let's just have a different username. uh, so that is let's say uh, let's just call it a John. Let's just call it as a John. Okay. uh, John is okay. Okay, and let's just have a password, and for password let's just rely on ABC. Okay, ABC is just okay, and let's just build it, and so we have to actually return from here what we have to actually return from here. So it will actually give a user. So let's just first of all let's just collect this user, and this user, so we should have to in memory user data manager, and we have to give it a user. Okay, so that is given to it. So that this is what we have done. So initially we have actually provided things here, but we have actually removed things from there, and we have actually introduced things here. So let's just run it and see does it work or not. So before testing this thing, actually we have made a little bit mistake here. It's a mistake, or I mean, just I want to make sure that you understand this thing. When we have to provide the password, this is a plain password. You have to actually provide the password encryptor as well. Uh, so if you want to use a plain password, then you need to mention it somehow to the what I'm saying, that password encryptor encoder. We will see it in just a second. But if you're using the plain password, you actually have to make sure that uh, code understand that this thing, and you have to add these things. Nope. So this thing, after this thing, then you can actually run it again, and this time uh, it will work. Without this thing it will not work, because it will actually try to decrypt the password and actually try to find the password encoder and does not find, so the code will not work. Okay, so because let's just hit this endpoint. So we are actually getting user controller, and if we hit it as the admin, uh, then we will again able to get access. And if you try to change the password, like originally it was a user, we are getting unauthorized. And if we try to convert in on basic authentication, we still get this thing. And let's just, if we try to hit it, then we are actually landing on the task management home page. So if we so the problem right now is that let's just hit this thing. Let's just have a user authentication in place. Let's just change this into the John. And so okay, so this is actually working, but the problem is that we want to differentiate between, I mean, with the same thing you can actually able to access both these things. We want to change this behavior. User should not be able to, this is a John is a user, so it should not be able to access admin, and admin should be able to access both these endpoint. So let's just make some more modification into this thing to get this requirement working. So here we are again. So this time we want to add that user should be able to access these two controller, and admin should be able to access all these controller. So for this thing we have to actually introduce roles here. So that roles, it means that it is actually a user control, it is actually a user, and we have to add this thing user. Okay, and let's just copy this thing, and copy for admin, and it should be an admin controller, it should be an admin user. Okay, so these two things have actually changed, and here we have to add one more. So this user is like this things, we have to actually introduce roles as well. So that role is, it is actually user. Okay, and what if you could break it into the different lines so that it gets Okay, so this is actually a little bit understandable code. Let's just have admin and user dot builder dot password. First of all, let's say username, and let's just call it admin. Let's just have a password. And what should be the password? Password, I want to have its password like XYZ. Okay, and because it's a plain password, so I want to make sure that it should work. And another thing, I want to define its role as well. So its role should be like because I want to have it access to the admin, and I also want it to have access to the user. So that's why I'm actually defining both user to it. And after it, I want to give this user to this thing like admin. Here I want to so this thing actually there, user dot builder. So this thing it's build as well. So this is simple code. I mean, this should work. So here what we have actually done, uh, let's just have this thing as well. If has a role user, it should be able to access these endpoint. It should be permitted to all, and if there is any other request, let's just have any other request apart from it, then it should be authenticated. Although, I mean, if there is any other. Okay, so let's just run it and see if it works or not. Okay, so this is started. Let's just test it from the postman. Okay, so this is a John. Let's just try to get thing in. So we are actually getting forbidden error, and let's just try to change it John's admin and XYZ. So we were able to access this thing actually, and if I convert this into the and admin should be able to access this thing as well. It should be able to access user, and it should be able to access user task. Okay, both these things should be able to access, but the admin is not able to user is not able to access this thing, you understand. uh, ABC, and let's just say it's an admin. So admin, so it should not be able to access. So actually this thing we actually wanted to do, and somehow we have managed to do. Okay, so I was saying, I mean, right now we are actually uh, storing the plain password, and we should decrypt it so that the any other will not be able to access the password. So for these things, we will be using the bcrypt algorithm. We will see it in the code, but here I actually want to do is actually want to convert this thing. I mean, our plain password ABC that we actually was for user. So I want to encrypt it, and you should actually save this string that been passed to you. And then next thing is you should actually do this thing for XYZ, that is actually a admin user, and save this encoded string as well. So we will be using this encoded string in our code. So you got the idea. I mean, we want to use the encryption algorithm, and we don't want to use plain password. Okay. So for doing these things, we just have to do, actually we have to introduce one more bean that should be called public, and we have to introduce password encoder. Okay. And password encoder, what does it do? And from here we actually return to new bcrypt password encoder. Just it. I mean, just it. And here so with the John user, you should actually replace the encoded string. Okay, encoded string here. And for admin user, you just replaced this thing as well. Okay, and let's just call it as your user to make it more simplify. I mean, it's user admin. Okay, so let's just run it and see that things work in the way we expected or not. So here we are, and let's just try to access the admin endpoints with the simple user endpoints. So if we try to hit it, we're actually getting forbidden. Okay, and let's just replace it with admin xyz and check whether it is getting or not xyz. So it is actually getting, and let's just try to get user endpoint with the admin user. It is able to access, and let's just replace it with the user xyabc and see if it is work or not. It is working. Okay, it means things that we actually introduce are working.